Indonesia is home to some of the world's most impressive temple structures. And today, we're going to dive down the rabbit hole to talk about one of these sites that defies any measure of traditional interpretation. This ancient site is Candi Sukuh. It boasts a step pyramid rivaling those in Mexico, which is guarded by giant turtles and fierce warriors. Not to mention, the stone carvings at the site contain images of giants, elongated skulls, and even four-tusked elephants. Do I have your attention yet? Indonesia is growing in popularity as a travel destination for ancient history fans and showcases temple structures like Gunung Padang, which was thrust into the spotlight by Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix, or Borobudur, the world's largest Buddhist monument, and Prambanan, with its 240 soaring spires that echo Angkor Wat. Yet, Candi Sukuh, tucked on Mount Lawu's sacred slopes, stands apart. Officially, it is dated to the 15th century. Its precise stonework and wild carvings hint at a deeper, potentially much older mystery. Let's dive in. Candi Sukuh sits at the heart of Java, on the western slope of Mount Lawu. This prominent volcano has an elevation of over 3,200 meters, or 10,000 feet above sea level. Mount Lawu holds deep spiritual importance in Javanese culture, often considered a sacred site for meditation and pilgrimage. Candi Sukuh remained hidden in the jungle and largely unknown to Europeans until Thomas Raffles, the British Lieutenant Governor of Java, documented it in 1815. A Dutch archaeologist explored its ruins in 1842, and in 1917, the Dutch East Indies Archaeological Service began a major restoration of the site. Aligned east-west, Candi Sukuh compound features 3 ascending terraces, approximately 3 to 4 meters high, each connected by gates with narrow staircases that lead to the pyramid. The complex faces west with the mountain at its back. So let's start with this mysterious pyramid, shall we? It's a 4-sided pyramid about 10 meters high, with a narrow staircase of giant stone slabs leading up to the side of the structure to the flat platform on top. It has a unique pyramid design that isn't found anywhere else in Indonesia and is reminiscent of Mesoamerican pyramids. I have stood before the Mayan pyramid of Chichen Itza in Mexico and the Baksay Chom Krong pyramid in Cambodia, and both of these pyramids share the same 4-sided form with stairs scaling the side to a broad top. Is this similarity simply a coincidence? Beyond the pyramid, Candi Sukuh is probably most known for its strange and varied iconography. The pyramid is surrounded by monoliths and meticulously carved life-size figures that look like they all belong at different sites. Let's explore these curious carvings. First, there are 3 massive stone turtles at the site, each the size of a table, with flattened upper shells and their heads facing west, as if guarding the Great Pyramid behind them. The flattened shells are a notable characteristic, setting them apart from the natural turtle anatomy, and they are relatively large, with 2 guarding the entrance of the main pyramid and the 3rd located some distance down the front. The craftsmanship reflects a rugged, simplistic style, which diverges from more ornate Hindu-Buddhist designs. In Hindu mythology, the turtle is an avatar of Vishnu and symbolizes the support of the world, often linked to the idea of the universe resting on a turtle's back. Next, there are these large, imposing guardian figures, typically placed at the entrance of temples or sacred sites. They are often depicted as fierce warriors or demonic beings, designed to intimidate and ward off evil spirits or intruders. Common features include menacing facial features, bulging eyes, wide mouths, and prominent fangs. Some hold weapons like clubs, swords, or maces. In addition to these standalone statues, you can also find them perched above the doorways of some of the structures on the site. Curiously, their beady eyes, fangs, and club-wielding stance mirrors warriors found at ancient sites in Colombia across the ocean. For YouTube or Spotify viewers, I have included some side-by-side photos. I am not claiming a connection. I'm simply noting a striking parallel that I believe is worth pondering. Then there is the iconography the site is most known for, its fertility symbols. Historians point out that these fertility images reflect a unique blend of Hindu, Buddhist, and local animist influences. There are depictions of procreation and life cycles, which set the site apart from more conventional temple iconography you see at other temples in Indonesia. Finally, scattered across the stone panels, oddities abound. There is a very large stone that has a carved scene that depicts the death of a giant. There's quite a notable size difference between the slain giant lying on the ground compared to the figures standing over it. The giant is easily triple their size. There are intriguing images across multiple panels that depict figures with very large, elongated skulls. There's even one figure that doesn't seem quite human standing behind them. What do you suppose this figure represents? There's also a curious four-tusked elephant depicted on one of the panels. A four-tusked elephant is primarily a mythological figure in Hinduism, though some researchers have noted that fossils of extinct elephants with four tusks, called gomphotheres, have been found in areas related to ancient Indian texts. In fact, these large four-tusked elephants only went extinct about 10 to 12,000 years ago. This has led to discussions about the possible intertwining of myth with real history in these ancient narratives. There is an incredible statue of Garuda, a mythical bird-like creature in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain mythology, often depicted as a large, powerful bird with human features. In one particular relief at the site, Garuda stands with wings flapping while its legs grip an elephant and a turtle. These Garuda statues at Candi Sukuh are different from other temples in Indonesia. Most Garuda representations are in the form of reliefs. They're more rarely in the form of standalone statues. And the examples at Candi Sukuh are more numerous and more monumental, which has resulted in these particular statues being specifically studied by art historians. I am not going to get into the interpretation of this iconography today. If you're interested in it, Praveen Mohan has a video series on his site where he dives into many of these symbols and provides his take on them. It's worth checking out. Now, let's shift gears to the construction, which I believe hints at a possible older origin for this site. If you look at photos of the site, you'll see a few telltale signs that this may be much older construction than the 15th century AD, like we're being told. Starting at one of the gates, there are large stone steps and precise stonework on the left side of the entrance and at the top. Now, this isn't flawless stonework like you see in Egypt or Peru, but it is similar to the stonework you see at some of the older sites in Cambodia. The blocks are cut in different sizes and shapes and fit tightly together. Contrast that with the stonework on the right side of the gate and the walls around it. These are clearly rebuilt, likely during the 1917 restoration. Another one of the gates appears barely touched by repairs and boasts smooth, angled walls and a fierce warrior gazing down at the doorway. If you peer down at the site from atop the pyramid's peak, you can clearly see where the original precision stonework is still in place. Large stonework can be seen in various places, like the tops of the platforms, that fits precisely together. The eastern part of the main walkway also appears to be of original construction. When you compare that to the reconstructed part of the walkway under the turtles, which appears coarse and haphazard. Then, of course, the various statues associated with this site are placed all around the courtyard. Now, let's talk about the stonework on the pyramid itself. It appears to me that the stonework at the front of the pyramid walkway, as well as at the top of the structure that makes up the platform, is tight and skilled stonework. The stairs are single stone steps, and they're quite large, wider than your shoulders and as tall as your knees. The stones within the stairwell are also large and well-fitted. But the stonework on the sides of the pyramid appear looser and less masterful. I believe this is likely renovated. After examining what the builders of the site were capable of and the style of the stonework they carved, let's now spend a few minutes talking about the dating of this site. Dates were established for this temple based on chronograms. A chronogram is a method of encoding a date where specific words or pictures correspond to numbers. Unlike European chronograms, which often used Roman numerals, where M equals 1,000 or D equals 500, Javanese chronograms assigned numerical values to words or concepts. For example, a word like moon might represent the number 1, and eyes might represent 2. These values are typically read in reverse order to yield a year in the Saka calendar, which begins in 78 AD. At Sukuh, there are pictorial chronograms, images that are translated into numbers, as well as additional old Javanese script found on some of the walls and statues. This is fascinating. Let's talk about the most famous chronogram at this site, an image found on the left side of the gate that historians have used to date this site to 1437 AD. I'll note that this gate appears to be original construction. The stonework is tight and precise. The relief carved on the front of this gate depicts a scene where a male figure is holding a smaller human figure in his arms, which has been interpreted as gate monster eats human. In the Javanese system, this translates to gate 9, monster 5, eats 3, human 1. When read backwards, which is the standard practice, the sequence 1359 yields 1359 Saka, and then you add 78, and that gets you to 1437 AD. But these associations are not standardized and can vary by context or region. For example, the monster in the relief might depict a specific deity or demon in Javanese cosmology, and different interpretations result in different numbers. Some scholars also question whether all elements of the relief contribute to the chronogram, or if some are simply decorative. For example, gate might be a contextual element rather than a part of the numerical sequence. If the word gate is excluded, and we assume that all of the other elements are being interpreted correctly, this would result in monster 5 eats 3 human 1, or 213 AD. That's a big difference. Scholars who have studied this site have also noted the lack of similar pictorial chronograms at other sites in Indonesia, making the interpretation of Sukuh's relief a unique challenge. As I mentioned before, there are also inscriptions written in Old Javanese script, which are included on statues and carved into some of the walls around the site. This script appears different from the other images and carvings. For example, one of the temple walls has an inscription, which almost looks stamped into the precisely fit stones. It's even at a different angle than the stones. So I think this leaves us in a place where we can either accept the traditional interpretation of these chronographs as accurate and associated with the time of construction, or we can leave the dating of this site as more of an open question. So there's so much going on at this ancient site. What do we make of it all? There's a pyramid that looks very similar to other pyramids we see around the world, especially the Mesoamerican pyramids. Is it possible that there was a global connection between the builders of this site and the builders of the sites in Mexico, Cambodia, and beyond? There are questions around the dating methods of the site, leaving open at least the possibility that the original construction is older than we're being told. There are also all of the very mysterious monoliths and carvings found around the complex. Giants, strange skulls, large turtles. What stories were the builders trying to tell us? In short, wow, what a site. The ancients clearly had their share of mysteries, and at this site, they let us in on a few of them. I love these quiet, out-of-the-way ancient temples. They often hide the biggest mysteries. So, do you think the pyramid and carvings point to a lost global culture, or are these simply coincidences of human creativity? I'd love to hear your theories. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Indonesia's hidden gems, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and leave a review on your favorite platform. Your support helps me grow this channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Secrets in Stone. We'll see you next time.